Tin Hawk's Journeyverse Journeys, Part 9. Xander was breathing hard, his face flushed, as he took down another demon with a heavy swing of the staff. "Alexander!" Landil sounded annoyed. "I am not some tree branch you just picked up." "Huh?" Xander managed to mutter between ragged breaths. "If you are going to wield me, I would appreciate it if you did so properly." "What are you talking about?" Xander demanded under his breath, as he moved in on another demon. "I hit the other guy with the hard thing. What's wrong with that?" "And if I were a sword, would you claim that the pointy end goes in the other guy is a proper way to do battle?" Xander didn't know a whole lot about women, but he did recognize that tone, and it meant that he was in trouble. As usual, he didn't understand why. "Can we talk about this later? Maybe when I'm not fighting for my life?" There was no reply from the irate weapon, just an eerie echo of an angry sigh floating through his mind. Oh, great. Like I needed another woman with an axe to grind in my life. Xander and Terry met up in the center of the clearing, and took up positions on either side of the sobbing girl. "You do this often?" Terry asked over his shoulder as the three more beasts approached on his side. Xander flipped a grin back at him. "More often than I'd like to remember." Terry shook his head slightly, popping off a round from his shotgun. That took out two with the spread of the shotgun. "Here, I thought my childhood was tough." Xander just snorted, thinking about his parents more than his nightlife. "You don't know the half of it." Terry shook his head again, wondering how the hell this kid could have gotten involved in this sort of thing. "Whoops, incoming." Xander followed Terry's gaze to where three new demons were approaching. Two of the type that they had been dealing with, and a new guy. Uh-oh. Xander didn't like the look of the new one. He was bigger, looked meaner, and was snapping orders. This could be bad. Terry shrugged. "Let's see if he's bulletproof," he said confidently. Terry racked back the slide of the shotgun and triggered wave after wave of 12-gauge buckshot aimed at the trio approaching. The two shit demons fell from the wave of pellets, but the new one didn't even flinch under the onslaught. "Shit," Terry muttered. "I had to jinx it." Xander winced. "I really hate this part." He stepped forward, the staff still in his hand, and sized up the enemy. "This is gonna hurt. Hopefully him, but I doubt it." "Say, Elan," Xander whispered under his breath, "please tell me that you can kill this thing." "Me?" Lenthiel sounded annoyed. "I'm just a weapon. You're the one who has to wield me." Xander's heart sank. "You're magical or something, right? Demon killing?" "Sure," she said into his mind, "if you've had a couple decades of training. What did you expect? A weapon that did all the work?" "A guy can dream, can't he?" Xander watched as the big guy lumbered forward. "I'm a dead man, aren't I?" "I guess we will see." "Oh, and Alexander?" "Yes?" "Do not call me Elan." Xander stepped forward, shifting his grip to a more classical one, 4-quarter staff type weapon. He did remember some of the things he picked up from Giles after all, even if not many of them. He shook his head as he stepped closer to the big demon. "I don't suppose you recognize this puppy, do you, Elan?" Elan didn't answer for a moment, and Xander almost thought she wasn't talking to him. Finally, he heard her whisper through his head, "Do not call me Elan." But no. I can feel his demonic energy, though. It is powerful. "Great," Xander whispered under his breath. "I can monitor your thoughts, Alexander. You do not need to speak out loud." Xander didn't answer. He just looked over his shoulder at Terry. "Get her out of here, Terrence. This isn't gonna go down easy." Terry swallowed deeply, pulling Jenna up into his arms as he started to back away. He didn't like the idea of turning tail, but he couldn't imagine what he could do. The damn thing didn't even flinch when it took a 12-gauge shell full on. As far as he could tell, the boy was taking on a suicide mission. "Come on, girl. We gotta get you out of here fast." Xander heard the shuffling steps as Terry dragged the girl away from the fight. He didn't know how this was going to turn out, but he was glad they were away. For the first time, he understood why Buffy kept him at arm's length when it came to patrols, only involving him when the consequences of not doing so were way worse than anything that could possibly happen to him in a fight. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart and keep his mind in the game. His mind flashed back to something his soldier counterpart learned in training, and Xander could hear the instructor's words ring through his mind. When a human is in a life-and-death situation, he regresses to a more primitive state. We call this fight or flight, people. His body is producing adrenaline. His rational mind retreats and lets the inner beast take control. This is a natural reaction for most humans. You are not most humans. You are soldiers. You will not allow your thought process to be impeded by such trivial matters. Your mind is the most lethal weapon in your arsenal. You will not allow fear to take it away from you. He continued taking his deep breaths, feeling the rush of adrenaline fade into the background as his system calmed down. Finally, he took another step forward, towards the imposing demon, and cracked his trademark grin. Come on, ugly. I don't know about you, but I haven't got all night. It breathed heavily as it stalked around the edge of the clearing. It had been tracking its prey for 3 days, only to find itself beaten to the punch by a human. It snarled low in its throat, but held back. The human had staked its claim to this one, but there were others in the area. In the meantime, perhaps it would find the human entertaining. Not likely, it admitted to itself, but sometimes the humans could surprise you. Things were going somewhat better than Xander had expected. Of course, all that meant was that he was still breathing and relatively whole. After the first minute of the fight, he was bleeding from a dozen shallow cuts to his arms and chest from the demon's claws, for which he had inflicted a few minor bruises on the demon, which had apparently only served to severely piss him off. Xander ducked another swipe that was intended to take his head off, and retaliated by swinging a line into the demon's knee. It howled out in pain and dropped its arms solidly down onto Xander's back, driving the boy to the ground. Ouch! Xander rolled clear as the demon stomped the ground where he had been laying, barely clearing the area before the hooked claws that passed for the demon's toes sliced into the ground. Jesus, I wish Buffy was here. Xander scrambled to his feet, using the staff as a prop to pull himself up. For such an ugly SOB, you pack a mean punch, bozo. Are you as sure it is wise to aggravate him? Elanthiel asked mildly as the demon charged Xander again in a rage. Shut up, Elan, Xander muttered as he connected with the demon's jaw in passing. I'm busy right now. Elanthiel shut up, though Xander was left with a distinct impression that he was going to pay for that. He mentally shrugged and sidestepped the demon's next charge, swinging Elan like a baseball bat into the back of the demon's head as it passed. Xander smirked as the demon was driven to the ground by the impact. That had to hurt. The demon growled and rolled back to its feet, staring at Xander for a long moment while it caught its breath. You're tenacious, human. You're ugly, demon. It growled again, but came in slowly this time. Refusing to be baited by the human's sharp tongue, it ducked under the staff and lashed out with a claw strike to Xander's belly that drew blood. Backing off momentarily, the demon grinned, licking blood off its claws. Tasty. I'm looking forward to some more. Stand in line, bozo, Xander snapped. You ain't the first to say that. Man, how sad is my life. That was actually true. Xander shook off the thought and held the staff in a defensive position, warding the demon off. He's going to take me. Not a damn thing I can do about it. Elanthiel considered Xander's thoughts. That wasn't entirely true, and she was about to speak, when a series of shots rang out and distracted her. The demon dropped, screaming in pain. It burns! Xander looked at the writhing demon in shock. Then he twisted his head around, looking for the source of the shots. He was shocked when he saw the priest standing at the edge of the field, with an old Colt revolver smoking in his hand. The priest flipped open the revolver, feeding a speed loader into the 6 open holes. Flipping the weapon shut with a practiced flick of his wrist, he made the sign of the cross over the weapon and muttered in Latin. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, I bless thee. Xander stared at the old man in shock. He blessed his bullets? The demon was writhing on the ground, screaming incoherently about the pain. Cool, Xander grinned as he looked at the demon. Blessed bullets don't kill the sucker, but he sure doesn't enjoy them either. Xander tipped his head to the old priest and stepped forward, drawing his machete with his left hand. I don't suppose you'd promise to go home if I let you go. The demon on the ground started cursing through the pain. I'll eat your entrails, you... Xander winced at the string of obscenities that came from the creature's mouth, and shook his head. God, these things are stupid. He grimaced in distaste as he swung the machete down, severing the demon's head with a stroke. As the demon's corpse gurgled its last, Xander collapsed onto his ass, breathing hard as his body let itself start to shut down. Shit, he moaned as he flopped down on his back. I hate this crap. Hardly impressive, though the human is probably tougher than most of his soft-skinned brethren. All things considered, it had been an enjoyable show, but now it was faced with the dilemma of what to hunt since its prey was dead. A flicker of motion attracted its attention. Ah, there are the prey's comrades. They will do nicely.